The tool I ordered for removing the oil centrifugal filter, I suppose, has arrived. It seems to fit, or would fit better if I hadn't slightly mullered the nut that this engages with. I ordered this from Honda Classics. There are other brands available, but I think this tool was £21, which seems to be about the going rate for this particular type of tool. So an expensive tool for a one nut job, but if I end up doing more of these motors, then perhaps it'll pay for itself one way or another. But anyway, I've tried various methods, including making my own, but I just didn't have the right materials that were strong enough. It was just too soft as steel and kept basically chewing off the splines. So I ended up biting the bullet before I end up mullering something in here. The plan is to get a bit of rag into the drivetrain and hopefully that'll lock it in place. Then we've got the impact driver, which I don't know if it's going to have enough guts to drive this. I've got the tool which is locked into the, I don't know what you'd call it, it's a bit like a castle nut, but it's not a castle nut. Anyway, here goes. Whoa, there she blows. I think we might have had it. I thought that for sure was not going to work, but it seems to have done it. Now this is the reason for the delay and why I got on with the carburetor now, is because I was waiting to get to this point. But here we have it. The strange shaped nut which fits this strange shaped tool, which I think is quite specific to Honda. Right, so that's the nut out. Oop. And then this whole unit wants to slide off. And there is a splined shaft there. I'm just having a look inside here, see what comes out. Okay, so we've got a washer, and I will need to know if that is handed, whether there's a up and a down. Sometimes there is, yep, there is on this one. This one says outside, so this face has to face outward. After that, it looks like it's just the unit itself. This is the rotary oil and dirt separator. I don't think it matters which orientation this goes on, it seems to go anywhere. We've got a pinion that is on the shaft, and again I suspect this is not, this can slide on in any position, it's just like a transfer gear from the crank to the oil pump and to the clutch basket. But for future note, there is a small nick or dent which we'll call a witness mark, and that goes on the bottom. So we'll call that the bottom, and the top doesn't have that. So at least then we know the orientation's right, although I suspect it probably doesn't matter. In the centre bushing there is this push rod, I suppose, which goes through the centre of the bearing. Four bolts and 4 washers. Four bolts, 4 washers. And then in the centre there's the bearing carrier, and the bearing pops out too. Quick look. Right, I'll clean that bearing and check it later. It feels alright, but it's hard to tell right now. There's the journal. We've got 4 springs. Okay. Okay, I was expecting a nut, but it looks like there's a circlip holding the clutch together. One circlip. Sort of hanging up. Is it me? There we go. It was just stuck. Okay. So I think the clutch plates have kind of bonded together. So that's the bottom of the clutch basket. Or I should say the clutch pack. Then there's a washer, which doesn't seem to be orientated. Okay, there we have the oil pump. And that's something I'll have a look at separately. But I'm going to keep it together as a unit for the time being. Also, as a note, there are two O-rings here that will need replacing. I have a feeling that the gear selector lever just pulls through. I hope I'm doing this right. Yeah, that just runs through the case. The gear change unit is it is dismantleable, but I don't think I need to do that. I think I'll give it a clean and oil before putting it back in the bike on reassembly. According to the manual, I've got to undo these two 10mm bolts. One to take off the cam for the gear selector. The other is the sort of cam selector tensioner, I suppose. That's under a lot of spring tension, and it just casually says just undo the two 10mm bolts. Now I'm worried if I undo this one, it's going to launch the cam across the room, and if I undo this one, it's going to bite my fingers off. So I'm not entirely sure which one I want to do the most or the least. How much tension is on that? I wonder if I undo that, pull that back, pull the cam out, if it doesn't just ping off, we might get away with that. Oh well, in for a penny. Oh, changes gear for me. Oh. Okay. It's under even more tension now. Okay. There we go. Oh, that's handy. Alright, so that was slightly less painful than I was expecting. There's a little locating dowel in the selector drum which has a loose peg, and that fits in that little hole there, so you can't misalign this onto the selector drum. But I think what you can do is lose that pin if you're not careful. Yeah, the pin comes out, so be aware of that. Is that still under tension? Yeah, but it's not as bad. There we go. I'm not a big fan of anything with springs on, because they usually bite me. Okay, right, what have we got? At the very bottom we've got a spring which is orientated so that the hook of the spring faces upwards. So that's the hook there, and then the base of the spring presses against the case to stop it rotating. Then on the actual tensioner itself we have a washer. Do we have a washer? Or is that all part of one unit? It might all be one part of one unit. Right, so we've got the bolt that goes through, and that's a bearing surface. I don't think that comes apart, and neither does the jockey wheel, although it does feel very graunchy, so that could really do with a clean before reassembly. Feels gritty. Also, between the two, the one with the long unthreaded section is for the cam, and the one with the short unthreaded section is for the tensioner. Neutral light switch, cable clamp and bracket.